We have mud everywhere too.
Everybody can share.
Yes.
Messed up, didn't I?
You sure?
You got it.
It's better
You got
for
it.
all, but y'all don't have you got trouble yet?
Fine.
Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. This is the May 27th edition of the Pullman School District Board of Directors meeting. And our first item on our agenda is the flag salute. If you'd please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, next is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes, corrections, additions?
Not from the staff.
Not from the staff. Any corrections or additions from the board?
None.
I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented then.
I will so move. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those, is there any questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. We come to the place on our agenda where visitors have the opportunity to speak before us. If anyone wishes to speak before the board as either an individual or as a member of the group, visitors addressing the board will go to the microphone, state their name and address prior to presenting their information, and visitors are asked to limit their remarks to no more than 3 minutes. The board will listen but probably not discuss the topic at this time, and the board may consider moving the topic to a future meeting. Is there anyone that would like to come and speak before the board this evening? Okay, I'm not seeing any big rush toward the podium, so we'll just continue down the program, being that we have a rather lengthy agenda this evening. Reports, correspondence, and programs. The first item is our board reports. Board Member Weed, do you have any reports for us this evening?
I do.
Excellent.
Thanks to Johnny Stevens who emailed me. They have a winner at it's the American National Statistics Poster Competition, and she was the mentor, and one of her students, Ryan Holder, won in the grades 4 through 6th category, got first place, best paper airplane design poster that he came up with. And she said to please be sure to thank Dean Johnson, who was a Jefferson parent that helped coordinate Jefferson's participation. But congratulations to Johnny and to Ryan for that award. And
Would you forward that to Shannon?
I can do that.
The
I can
email?
do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Perfect.
All right, but I think that's pretty awesome. And Jefferson being my school, I'll take a little credit for it. And then other things, just lots of year-end stuff going on. If you look at the schedule of events that Shannon says, it's amazing anybody's home at all. It's that dreaded end of the school year adventures going on. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Dr. Johansson, do you have a report for us?
Well, I happened to be over observing construction this morning when bus loaded for state, and I'm not sure, I think it may be just the girls that the whole team qualified, I believe. And they're all sporting, and I'm not sure, maybe Doug can tell me the significance of it, but they're all sporting their black t-shirts that say "We" on the front and "Go Ugly" on the back. And I think that I heard a little implication that meant that they were willing to do what it took to come back with a state championship or whatever. But maybe Doug will pop his head out and correct me on it. But they're off to state, and Unfortunately, the soccer team made the round of 8. I know we have, I believe, tennis competitors are doubles, women's doubles qualified for state, and is golf
track.
might have been, anyway. And I took a peek at the Scholastic Club standings going into the final championships. And although things can change, we're about, Pullman High is about 10 points right now out of first place, and solidly in the top 5 again. Meade, the only other public school to be in the top 5 since the start of Scholastic Cup, the only public school other than Pullman, going into championship weekend, so to speak, was in 10th place in the 4A. So there might be a halving of the public school qualifiers. So when Chris gets here, he'll have a chance to work with students that are used to success, and I'm sure he'll be interested in continuing that level of success. So it's a real testimony to the academic side, which counts just exactly as much as the athletic and activities competition side that goes into that those rankings, and it's just outstanding that, again, it looks like Pullman will be within the top 5 at least. Anyway, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Dr. Monterotola, you have a report?
I'm going to go with no report.
Okay.
Thanks.
As I am too, no report, so we'll move on to our superintendent's report. Superintendent Sturm.
Thank you. We have had letters coming in from 5th grade trickling in. Some came in before that I think you saw, and here's another one. So the 5th graders enjoy camp. There's pretty much no debate about that. And I think they had a good time. They had, I think, one wet night, but other than that, it was a successful camp. And I think, Carl, you went down for
and served, and
then I think Jim Everman was down for one day as well, and Bob was down for overnight one night. So
Slept in his car, though.
fun.
I was roughing it.
That would be for me, let me tell you.
Just quickly, not a lot of new things to report on the construction, other than progress is underway and continuing, and we should start seeing the brick veneer go on the wing, which the contractors call the B section of the construction. They have it all sectioned off
yeah.
and lettered, and the gym is in section A. And
I like the little hangy outy room thing.
yeah, well,
That's kinda neat.
Yeah, that'll be interesting when that will be mostly glass. So
Yeah, I think that's exciting.
So yeah, we should start seeing the outside veneer go on. They're actually probably started painting the gym today.
Wow.
So that's coming together.
Concrete going in the commons.
Oh yeah, the commons concrete floor, well, is mostly poured.
Yep.
Already. So the bridge, the bridge is in place. They had to do some extra bracing. Has to do again with the phasing, because they have those tall steel beams, and they don't have the middle wing built to tie into it yet, so they had to do some extra bracing until the school gets torn down and the other wing gets built in there. But So those are kinds of things that, you know, there's a lot of problem solving going on daily
bet.
out there. Nothing is as clean as it looks on paper once you start getting out there and doing it.
Well, it didn't look that clean on paper when you looked at those notebooks
Yeah.
and the arrows and everything that was going on, so.
Anything else I'm missing, Dan?
No.
I have one question. If something came up, of course, I'm sure you'll be talking about the legislature, but did we follow through and hire all of our teachers by the 15th, or are we holding off until they allow, as I understand it, if the legislature hasn't acted, then the renewal date rolls back to June 15th, and have we also done that?
Well,
Or did-
the May 15th deadline is for non-renewal. Otherwise, our teachers are on continuing contracts and they're automatically renewed.
Thanks for
So,
reminding me.
yeah, so for us, we had we aren't anticipating any RIFs or non-renewals this year, so. Well, I guess I should say that we haven't already dealt with.
And with increasing enrollment, that figures.
So, yeah, good.
Unless there were disciplinary or other things which were not part of that process.
For,
Okay.
you know, in past years, especially for school districts that are not increasing enrollment, but maybe going the other way, that is a big issue, because if they aren't sure they're going to bring all their teachers back, they have to notify before May 15th. But we're going to bring everybody back and then some.
Like our neighbors
Yeah.
east of us at Troy.
We're gonna break Dagny in really good this year.
Oh, it's good for her.
We're gonna. She's already started the hiring season in full swing. So, and I should probably point out that Dagny's here with us this evening, getting ready to take over this little duty when Shannon's no longer with us for a little while.
Soon.
So hopefully that doesn't happen today. Yeah, she gave me a ride today, and the truck was bouncing around, and she says, "Oh, I'm going to remember to drive over that road when I get tired of this." And I said, "Not today, please."
No.
I don't have, you know, we could spend all night speculating about the legislature, but there are some bills that have passed out of the earlier session that I probably don't really want to even think about yet. And I know that there will be some more out of this current session, but it doesn't look like the budget will be completed by tomorrow, so there will be, the governor's already indicated an automatic second special session, which will start immediately. The speculation and talk that's coming out of Olympia is that they're working towards some kind of a levy swap. We've actually seen some numbers around some of the proposals. What does that mean? It means that they would reduce local levies amounts, so local communities would be able to collect, would be limited or capped in how much local levies they could collect. They would in turn then increase the state property levy and collect the taxes at the state and then redistribute them out. So it's really not a increase in revenue. It's just switching.
Loss of control.
Switching, and it's
Yeah.
a loss of
And what are the
local
chances
control.
of the state distributing all those taxes to the school district?
Well, that's,
About zero.
I said this is all speculation, yeah, at this point.
It's,
Is there speculation with that there would still be some amount for extras that could be levied locally.
The number
for
I've heard-
things that aren't, in quotes, basic.
The number I've heard is 10, that's been thrown around is 10%. And we're at what, 24,
27.
27 is our limit. 20, and that's,
Actually, we're at 31 right now.
yeah,
Yeah. Because they increased it 4%.
yeah. But as we only collect 27.
Yeah, and a little bit less than that,
Yeah, then more like 20, yeah.
yeah.
So we,
I just plain
so we,
thing.
so it would decrease it by more than half. It would decrease, so we collect less than half of what we're collecting now. But that's really what the McCleary decision is about, is that the reliance on local levies for basic ed functions is not constitutional. We hire probably 20 teachers above the state allotment, and we pay for those out of local dollars, and technically that's illegal.
But it's just scary, the idea of the state collecting that money and thinking they're really going to spend it on schools. There's not a hope. I mean, it's been proven.
Well,
How many years in a row it's been proven?
Well, we had, I mean, that's kind of what happened in the Doran era in the 70s. We had, it was reduced to 10%. Local
Yeah.
levies were reduced to 10%, and they, over those years from then to now, it's crept up to 31, as high as 31%.
Out of necessity, though, for school districts
Well,
to keep
you
operating.
can see the state funding has declined. The percentage of
Yeah.
state funding has declined considerably over that period of time. So, yeah, it's a dilemma.
It's a joy.
But, you know, another piece of that is compensation, and that's what's really difficult to solve, because contracts have been bargained locally, and there's no way for the state to make that, there's no easy way or politically palatable way to solve that problem. And so I don't know, it'll be very interesting, but it's bound to be a historic session when the dust settles, because some significant things are going to change around funding and compensation and all of that.
Well, thank goodness the legislators took care of compensating themselves anyway.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, you got to take care of that first.
You betcha.
So anyway, stay tuned. We've got another month of that.
Joy.
Well, I mean, they could finish before the end of that, but we've got up to another month of that next session. And then, anything else, Dan, that you can think of?
No.
Again, you know, I need to say, all of that speculation. There's nothing real solid about any of that that's coming out. A lot of issues around that. Bob, anything?
Well,
Unless you have questions, that's
one
fine.
of the things that I forgot to mention was that I don't even know if our PEA took a vote, but honored contracts today and weren't out as Spokane district, and I think one of the Valley districts or whatever. I noticed Meade voted no, Cheney voted no. And appreciate that they honored their contract, and didn't think that it was a way, at least in our community, to send the message.
Yep. Okay. All right,
Thank
thank you.
you. Much appreciated. We're to item number 6 on our agenda this evening, which is the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by any single member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Does any board member have any item they'd like to pull from the consent agenda this evening?
I will move that we approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as it was presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item number 7 on our agenda, which are the action items. I might remind everyone that these were brought forward as discussion items at our last meeting, and that we had ample time to discuss at our last meeting and ask questions in the meantime to any of our administrators and get clarification, so that they have been actually discussed and vetted well. And so if you don't hear us discussing a lot this evening, that's the reason why. We've had a couple weeks to do so. But the first action item this evening is the 2015-16 meal prices, and to present that tonight is our Executive Director of Support Services, Dan Hornfeld.
Thank you. At the last board meeting, Sheba Nall, our food services supervisor, presented to the board the recommendation to increase meal prices up to, finally, we've reached what the federal rate requirement is. It took us 3 years to get there. We incrementally, by law, we were allowed to do that. So we present that to the board tonight for approval, and the increases are minimal and reasonable to achieve that mark.
Any comments or questions for Dan concerning the meal prices?
No, I will move that we adopt the 2015-16 meal price schedule as was presented last meeting.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve or adopt the 2015-16 meal price schedule as listed in our agendas, or our packet, I should say, excuse me. Are there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving or adopting the 2015-16 meal prices as presented in our packet, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. The second action item is the Pullman High School Computer Tech courses, the Operating Systems Network and Security and Software Programming Fundamentals. Presenter of this would be our Assistant Superintendent, Bob Maxwell.
Thank you. This item was discussed the last time we met. Again, just to summarize, this would be reconfiguring our computer tech and software programming courses to combine some of the independent courses and to offer some additional independent study for those students so they can diversify and increase the number of certifications they are able to obtain during their schooling here at Pullman High School.
Are there any further questions for Superintendent Maxwell concerning this?
No, I just think it's awesome that Garen has been working so hard on this, and it's just a bonus that we're able to provide it for our students.
Yeah, and he did share with me earlier this week that he had another student pass one of the certifications, so I think he's up to over 25 certifications this year alone, and some of those are also girls receiving their certification in certain programming software courses.
That's awesome.
Do the students who do independent study, would they meet also at the 0 hour, or how do they?
They would schedule time with Garen during that 0 hour to come in and meet. Because if you ever observe 0 hour, a lot of it is teaching and independent work, and then he does a lot of one-on-one or small group monitoring and teaching. And that's when he plans to have those students come in, and a lot of them will already be there taking
Sure.
another course, so they can also schedule time with him.
Well, the curriculum is pretty well set by Microsoft, right?
Absolutely.
And available all online.
All online.
So he's more answering questions, mentoring.
Correct. A lot of it's kind of that reverse teaching where they'll come in with already done some of the units and may have questions about how to proceed with certain pieces of the computer course or software applications.
It's just tremendous he's doing it.
Well, I will move that the board approve the new Pullman High School Computer Tech courses OSNS, Operating Systems, Networking and Security, and Software Programming Fundamentals.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the new PHS Computer Tech course, OSNS, and Software Programming Fundamentals. Is there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the PHS Computer Tech course and Software Programming Fundamentals, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Next item on our agenda is the 2015-16 course offerings. This is also to be presented by Assistant Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you. So this is part of our annual process where we present you with the course offerings for the upcoming school year. In the information that was provided earlier, hopefully to make it a little bit easier, we highlighted the new courses that have been adopted during the year and proposed as well for the coming year.
Is there any comments or questions for Assistant Superintendent?
I think it was pretty well explained last time, so I will move that we approve the list of courses offered for the 2015-16 school year.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the list of courses offered for the 2015-16 school year. Is there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the list of courses offered for 2015-16 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
All those
Aye.
opposed, nay.
Late here.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the Lincoln Middle School fee schedule for 2015-16, and that's also presented by Assistant Superintendent Maxwell.
Again, as part of our annual process of any, to approve any fees for the upcoming school year, with the middle school, they are asking for an increase in the ASB fee. Primarily, three reasons that are listed there. They really haven't had an increase in the cost of the card in 10 years. ASB funds have been less this year than in past years. Some of their traditional fundraising efforts are I think, becoming old and changing over time with the times. So they're looking at changing to some new fundraisers and are unsure of the amount of income that will be collected off of those. So they've requested the increase in $5 for the ASB card. And the prices are there for you as far as 6th grade and 7th and 8th.
Okay, are there any further questions for Dr. Maxwell?
And the high school, they were pretty much the same, weren't they?
Yeah, that's the next one. And in the high school, there are no
Sorry.
fee increases, but just to present the fee schedule for your
Jumping,
approval.
yeah. Okay. Well, I will move that we approve the 2015-16 LMS fee schedule, which includes a $5 fee increase for the ASB card as presented this evening.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2015-16 Lincoln Middle School fee schedule, which includes a $5 fee increase for an ASB card as presented. Is there any further comments, questions, or discussion?
There is, once again, just to clarify, there are scholarships available for kids who can't afford it.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify.
Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. That brings us to item E on our agenda under the action items, and that's the PHS, the Pullman High School fees for the 2015-16 school year. Presenter, Dr. Maxwell.
Thank you. So presented for you is the 15-16 Pullman High School fee schedule. There is no fee increase in any of the areas for the following school year, so all the fees are remaining the same.
Well, that's always good not to raise prices. That doesn't happen.
You don't see that very often, so.
No. So I will move that we approve the 2015-16 Pullman High School fee schedule as presented this evening.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 2015-16 Pullman High School fee schedule. Are there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the 2015-16 Pullman High School fee schedule, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item F on our action items, which is the 2016-17 calendar. The presenter is Dr. Sturm this evening.
Thank you. We discussed this last year. The bullets there indicate the kind of key elements of the calendar. The board last year moved and approved to set all of our calendars at the last Wednesday in August. So that will continue forward unless the board decides at some point to change that. The only things really that affect the end date are Thanksgiving, which the staff voted to have a full week of Thanksgiving without school to line up with WSU, and winter break decided we had a couple of options that would have run the school later if we would have had 2 full weeks, because it would have been more than 2 full weeks in order to get all of the both Christmas holiday and New Year's holiday in there. And then spring break is recommended to be the first full week in April, which aligns with our other league high schools. And I believe that those are the highlights. You'll note that collaboration days have not been set, or after half days have not been set, so they're not indicated on this calendar. The committee usually sets those late in the spring, sometime before the year of this calendar.
What's the date of the last day of school this year? The 10th, 12th?
10th.
10th. Well,
Yeah,
it is a lot later. But if they don't want to give up the Thanksgiving break and stuff, what can you do?
Well, yeah, and it's mostly, the internal functions or internal dates of the calendar really aren't that much, they're not different than they are this year. It's a function of how the calendar works out in August. And so this year we have an earlier start, and next year, and 2 years from now, we'll have a later start. It's actually the last day of August in 2016-17.
Any further comments, questions, or discussion? What's the pleasure of the board?
I would move approval of the 2016-17 academic calendar as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 2016-17 academic calendar as presented. Is there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Okay, that brings us to item E under the action items, which is the elementary specialist class size proposal. That's also presented by Dr. Sturm.
Thank you. In our discussion last week, we pointed out that we've tried a couple of different models of compensating our specialists. At this point, it's elementary physical education or health and fitness, art and music teachers, and how to compensate them for class sizes that are in excess of some targets that we have set. And this is a new model that we believe will be more in line with how we deal with non-specialist teachers. So it's a model that doesn't fit elementary very well because the specialists don't see the same classes every day, or they don't see them actually every day in some cases. So it was a little bit more complicated, and this is a model that's more in line and aligns with the middle school, high school class size model. Not a significant increase in cost to the district. If it would have been implemented this year, it would have been about 2 hours of pay per month.
Total.
Total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, each of them, you can see the per week. Per week. You can see the partial hours right here. So the various teachers, because of the class sizes that they had, would have received, that bottom one there is 0.4 hours per week.
Is there any further comments, questions?
I will move that we approve the proposed master agreement language regarding elementary specialist class size.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed master agreement language regarding elementary specialist class size. Is there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the proposed master agreement language regarding elementary specialist class size, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Which brings us to item H on the action item list, which is collective bargaining contract opener, building secretaries. And that's also presented by Dr. Sturm.
Thank you. Again, discussion on this last week. We discovered that we had some limiting language in our current bargaining agreement that limited our ability to pay a new hire at the maximum level of experience that they bring to the job. And so this would correct that and allow us to bring a new employee who has verified experience in that position that we're hiring them into, the ability to pay them at that level. There are 5 tiers in the pay schedule, and it was limited to coming in at the 3rd level.
Any more comments or questions? What would be the pleasure of the board concerning this?
I move approval of the changes to Article 5, Section 17.3 in the Building Secretary's Bargaining Agreement as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the changes of Article 5, Section 17.3 in the Building Secretary's Bargaining Agreement as presented. Is there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. That brings us to item I on the action items list, which is the 2015-2016 calendar and 1,080 hour requirement presented by Dr. Sturm.
Thank you. The legislature 2 years ago passed a bill that increased for next year the number of hours of instruction for high school to 1,080 hours. That is almost 6.5 hours of instruction a day. So it's almost like they've got to be in the classroom and in their seats the full day with no exceptions. So that presented some challenges for us to come up with meeting that, complying with that requirement. And what we've come up with is eliminating one collaboration day in March, eliminating the nutrition break mid-morning, and I think that gets us there. Let's see if I'm leaving anything out.
I think we're just eliminating that one collaboration day, though, right?
I'm sorry.
Well, we're voting just to eliminate the collaboration day, not the nutrition break, right?
Well, it's option one. The nutrition break has to go away unless the association agrees to move the start date of the high school 5 minutes earlier, and they voted not to do that. They'd have to trade that with the nutrition break, and that's a bargaining agreement. And so that was an exception that they were voting on. So when we presented this last week, we made the assumption that that would not pass, not because we didn't think it would, but I just learned today, or was it yesterday, that the vote was to not change the length of the workday. So there's no way to, I mean, we could go back and find some other place to get that time, but there's,
Well, I don't know what it would be, but I'm sorry if I'm out of order, but I just understood this differently, that we were eliminating one collaboration day, not voting on approving a high school schedule with no nutrition break. So
I believe the way it was option one, and no nutrition break is the one that we presented. And the one, and
No nutrition break.
the second option required an exception to the contract, to the bargaining agreement. And so option two is off the table.
Okay. I don't know when we learned that.
So the
So,
teachers at the high school will
Well,
be.
I learned today that it was off the table because the vote was taken yesterday.
So it's 7:50, they have
Or
to
was
be
it
at the
maybe
class,
it was Friday?
in the high school at 7:50
Friday.
a.m. until 3:20 p.m.? Is that when they're supposed to
Yeah.
be here?
So right here in the proposal that was in your packet last week, this option requires a variance from the Pullman Education Association. Which we did not get. So,
Right.
so there really is only one option that you have to
Okay.
vote on.
so the executive summary, I'm just pointing out, it doesn't say anything about
Eliminating the
eliminating the
nutrition
nutrition
break.
break. It just,
Ah.
so,
That's my oversight.
okay. How time sensitive is this?
Well, it's going to be difficult to get any other process done with staff at this point.
So the only other thing we could do is eliminate another collaboration day, district-wide.
Or
because
shorten
you can't
one.
just do it at,
Shorten one. Would that give us enough time?
10
We'll have
minutes
to
a
look at
day.
We'd have to do some calculating.
how many weeks times the nutrition break is now 10 minutes?
Well, we need 5 minutes to give them a 10-minute break because we're allowed a passing time.
Okay.
So that gives that a total of 10 minutes.
Mhm.
We have the option of amending what we see in front of us to accommodate removal of the nutrition break.
Do we know how many kids take advantage of the nutrition break?
Well, in some way or another, they probably all do because it's free time.
Well,
for
sure,
them.
but, yeah, but,
But in terms
mean,
of getting food,
nutrition-wise.
it's pretty significant.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty significant, the number of students that, I mean, and some may bring their own snack.
But it gives them time to eat it.
But we also, there's a significant number of students that access
Grab
our
an
food
apple or, yeah.
food service for nutrition.
well, I would rather, I mean, we're pretty much here for the students. And so I would rather not take away, I'd take away a collaboration day rather than take away a nutrition break. Because I think it benefits the students.
Well, then I suggest that, because we'll have to do some re-evaluating the time, so I suggest you table this
Yeah.
until we can come back with a proposal that puts that back. in.
Sorry, yeah, I just was,
Rob?
I misunderstood what on the nutrition break as well as, and I just think that I mean, we're here for the students, and so I hate to take away something that benefits our students. So,
I agree.
I move we table the issue before us until staff can do further calculations on the time that would be relieved by other options that we haven't been presented to.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table item I from our agenda until other options can be explored. Is there any further comments or questions?
well, I just think we need to reaffirm that this wasn't our idea, this 1080 hours. But there's so many constraints on it that we've got to do something, I know.
Well, I think it's
but-
important to note that there are other things that students are not going to be able to do,
I
like
know.
pep assemblies and
I know, it's
things like that.
it's
that
sad.
There's a real desire to have a vibrant student life, but this kind of eliminates most of the
Unless we
options
can
for that.
figure out a way to extend the school day some, 10 minutes, but that's, I guess, not happening, so. All right, sorry, that's just my 2 cents worth.
Any further comments or questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of tabling item I on our agenda until further research can be done, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. So that will be brought back to a future meeting. That brings us to item J on our action item list, which is suicide prevention, presented by Assistant Superintendent Maxwell.
All right, thank you. Again, 2145 suicide prevention. This is a new requirement that has come out of the legislator. Basically, summarizing it, requires new staff training opportunities and a plan containing guidelines for staff regarding suicide prevention. We do have an existing plan in place. With the training requirements, we do have developing a training plan for implementation for next year, so all of our staff will meet that requirement.
Comments, questions, clarification?
No, just one more thing our staff gets to do, rather than teach. What do you
I
do?
move that we approve policy 2145, suicide prevention.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve policy 2145, suicide prevention, as has been presented. Is there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving policy 2145, suicide prevention, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That moves us to item K on our agenda, which is Policy 6512, Infection Control Program. Assistant Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you. As part of our ongoing monitoring of possible health services related items that might impact the school district, Michelle Hyatt, our lead nurse, and I meet monthly to kind of review any new policies, procedures, different things that might be coming that might health service related impact the school district. And with measles, whooping cough, pertussis, chickenpox, and kind of breakouts across the state, one of the things that caused us to go back and look at some of our policies and procedures. And through that, specifically 6512, we found that we didn't have Tdap, which is tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis, specifically identified in our policy and procedures. We had just TD, tetanus and diphtheria, but the common immunization is Tdap, not TD. So we wanted to update our policy to reflect the most recent immunizations. Along with that, we wanted to also add chickenpox to our district form, so we're able to quickly assess our staff and what they are immunized against in the event of an outbreak, and the health department contacting us and making any changes as far as who is available to be at work and not available to work. So this was a preventative measure that we'd like to take so we're not caught off guard and reacting. And this would also help us update our staff immunization records and status.
Any further comments or questions for Dr. Maxwell?
I move that we approve the changes to policy 6512, infection control program.
There's
A second.
Okay. So moved and seconded to approve policy 6512, infection control program. Is there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
No, that was me. I was aye.
That was an aye. Okay, motion passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that completes our list of action items this evening, but we go into discussion items. These items will be presented and discussed, but not voted on this evening. So first item under the discussion item list is letter A, Resolution 151602 WIAA enrollment. To present that is Superintendent Sturm.
Thank you. This is an annual event that the board takes action to accept WIAA as our official agency to oversee interscholastic activities for schools. And they are by state statute the regulatory body for interscholastic activities. So we either join and become members, or we don't have interscholastic activities.
There you have it.
Intramurals, here we come.
Yep.
Are there any comments or questions for Dr. Stern on that?
No.
Okay, if there are no further comments, questions, or discussion on that, we'll move to item letter B on the discussion item, summer activities, to be presented by our Executive Director of Support Services, Dan Thornfeld.
Thank you. Each year we bring to the board the summer activities will take place after the school year, after the regular school year. And as well as this information needs to be sent off to our insurance, USIP, the United Schools insurance program that we belong to. And this year we anticipate boys basketball, 9 to 12 grade level, will take place at Lincoln. Girls basketball, 9 through 12 at Lincoln. cheerleading, 9 through 12, the football as well, 9 through 12, girls soccer tournament, girls volleyball, and summer weight training will take place this summer. So we bring that before the board for the board to approve those summer activities. We've already sent this information off to our insurance company so they know what we anticipate will be taking place this summer. And I think one thing to point out is all of our coaches do this without pay. They're really interested in the programs, of course, and are doing that. The only place that we do have a pay level is at the summer weight program. So really that we can have a supervisor in the weight room is really why we do that. And so we do pay for a supervisor in that particular aspect. The rest of the activities are donated by the coaches' times. So those are the activities we anticipate this year. We'd bring them back at the next meeting for the board to approve.
In the past couple of years, we did that summer program, what was it? Instead of weight
Bigger,
training,
faster, stronger.
and we're not doing that this year?
No, we completed that process of that. And really there was a training aspect of it that they trained our coaches on, and our coaches learned some of the different facets of that training program so that they could take that forward to our athletes. And so that was the intention of that. And I think we did that for 2 years,
Yeah.
I believe it was. And so it was successful. And I think we had some growth in our program because of it. Does that make sense?
So the activities are not going away, it's just the training aspect and having an outside person
Okay.
or people come in
Right.
and help with that. It's
Yeah.
not going to continue.
Okay. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the discussion items this evening. We do have informational items which do not require action or discussion by the board. The items are included in the agenda for the board to review and may be moved to a discussion items sections of the board agenda by any board member. Informational items may include board procedural updates that do not change the intent or practice of the procedure. So that's for the board to go through. And one thing I did fail to mention at the beginning of the meeting is there is no executive session this evening. So we are at a point in the meeting where if it's the pleasure of the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. But first I would like to ask, is there anything we've forgotten or need to bring forward?
If that's the case, I will move that we adjourn.
I'll
My
second.
favorite motion of the
Okay.
evening.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. The motion to adjourn has no discussion. So all those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. That concludes our meeting.